It's time to put away Boba and bring out Abel. What is up, Bat Family? Welcome to, I just realized you can't really properly tell what I'm saying in this mask. Yes, welcome to another The Batman video. So, yes, today is another installment in the discussion series. I have a few little mini updates as usual at the beginning of these videos. I want to discuss what's floating out there in the Batverse, or the Reeves-verse, should I say. I can't get too into detail, though, and that's the interesting thing. But yeah, I said I'd do another one of these this week. There are so many questions since I've only done one of these coming out of the new trailer that we got. Not so new anymore, but you get my drift. But as always, guys, if you go on to enjoy this video, you know what I'm going to say. I would appreciate a thumbs up on it. It just really does help out. But let's first get into what probably a lot of you are wondering as to why I haven't covered it. So if you aren't aware already, for those of you who just don't know, because not everyone can know everything, basically, Batman Year One, the animated movie, came out in another format, 4K release. I believe it's called Batman Year One, the Commemorative Edition. And in the special features of the physical disc, I believe, they included a, oh man, I can't remember what it's called. Some kind of something unwinding or something about Jim Gordon, right? And they speak about Jim Gordon's journey, and they get Jeffrey Wright to talk about his thoughts on it. And they include some behind the scenes footage of the Batman, stuff we actually haven't seen before. What I want to say is it's nothing too major. I do have a few ideas with a couple of the scenes, but I can't put it in this video. So when it comes to copyright, it's a strange water to navigate, shall I say, on the YouTuber ship. And I never ever want to put this channel at risk when it comes to just covering leaked content and stuff. So with this, yes, they were taking it down on the internet as well, even though it's a Blu-ray release. Let me just put it this way. When it comes to the Batman, they are very tightly wound in terms of wanting to make sure nothing to whatever they feel gets out there. And I respect that. Like, fair enough, right? That's their prerogative. It's their content, and I am tending to only cover stuff that is very officially released now, because if you aren't aware, on YouTube, you get 3 strikes, and then you're out. Channel deleted. Simple as that. Everything I've worked towards, if there's something in 3 separate videos that all get struck at once, gone. I'm gone. Absolutely gone. So you can understand. You're not missing out on too much if you can't find it. It was literally, I think, 30 seconds to 40 seconds of Jeffrey Wright just talking about Jim Gordon. It's like the B-roll footage that played before the main footage at DC Fandom. But in other news as well, and I might make a separate video on this the more and more things come out, but I didn't want to get into it too deep right now. But yes, apparently there has been another test screening for the Batman. Very, very positive reviews coming out of it. And interestingly, and as of last week's video as well, I covered Barry Keoghan possibly being the Joker. There has been some updates with that. So apparently, and I say apparently, but I'm pretty sure it is legit, Barry Keoghan's family, as in his brother, I think, and this is kind of the somewhat newbie thing about it. Sure, you can completely look at this as if it's a troll or it's a joke. That's down to you. Completely down to you. Long story short, his brother posted something along the lines of, oh, I see that it's out that my brother's playing the Joker. What great stuff, or something. And then I think a couple of his family members were like, woo, and stuff like that. This situation arose simply because, if you guys remember in my last week's video, I covered the rumor of Barry Keoghan playing the Joker. Since he's been a rumor for a long time that he's not just playing Officer Stanley Merkel, I did tease to you guys that it is in fact something that I've heard as well, in terms of how that is indeed just a cover role. I'm not pretending to be one of those exclusive scoopers or anything like that, but trust me when I say I have pretty interesting sources. But even with that said, I would never spoil anything. I don't care about that. I don't want to ruin it for anyone, and I'm just not a clout chaser like that, if you know what I mean. But I wanted to offer that part to it. But basically, with that rumor coming out, and if you aren't aware already, if you haven't watched that previous video, which I do recommend watching, it was something like a Insta DM or a Twitter DM to a page that handles anonymous tips for the industry stuff, and they said something like, I have heard legitimately that Barry Keoghan is playing Reeves' Joker, and that's the vibe, right? And because of that, it's circulated around the internet. We all know what we're like as a fandom. We're very excited for this film. Barry Keoghan is becoming a bigger name in the industry, and so those rumors turned into articles. Of course they would. Articles are floating around the internet, and because of this, Barry Keoghan's brother apparently made that post, and the way I view it, and this is me assuming, I'm guessing he's not, you know, just like a lot of us, we have friends or relatives who may not have both feet in this world of what we look into and what we read through articles and stuff. So when they see an article posted like that, Barry Keoghan could indeed be, I don't know, the Batman's Joker. I can't remember what the headlines were phrased like, but I'm sure some were more convincingly clickbaity than others, probably labeling it as if he is the Joker, for sure. You can imagine somebody making a very genuine mistake of, especially by the way, if I remember correctly, the article that he screenshotted had fan art or made by Jackson Durr. I've used his artwork on this channel many times because arguably a lot of these concept artists that I use on this channel for thumbnails, with their permission, just to let you guys know, unlike other channels, their artwork is very, very convincing. So you can see where I'm getting with this. It is probably very easy to assume in a very impulsive, naive, newbie way that, oh my god, like, it's out there. Holy crap, it's out there. I'm gonna congratulate my bro. And that kind of happened. And then, like, you know, what do you do in that situation? What's the one thing that kind of makes it look a little bit worse? This is a bit to and fro because I wouldn't know what to do in this situation if it was me. But what's the one thing that kind of makes it look a bit dodgy if you have nothing to hide? You delete the post. Now, sure, some of you may say to me, like, yeah, but maybe delete it because the troll got out of hand and stuff. You decide what you want to decide, but back to the test screening, getting back to Stanley Merkel. If I remember correctly, and by the way, you don't have to believe that this is legit info coming out the test screening, because as I said, this is very, you know, rough information that could be, you know, completely false. I always do want to stress, take this with a grain of salt. You know, in test screenings and stuff, you understand that not all the effects are finished and whatnot like that, but we learned some other things, that the movie is indeed a fairly long one, more towards the 2.5 hour mark and beyond, not necessarily 3 hours, but, you know, somewhere in between. But Barry Keoghan apparently turned up for the third test screening. So you kind of understand. It's like, ooh, interesting. Now, with this in combination of apparently people haven't seen this secret Joker scene, right? Well, let me tell this to you. With test screenings, they most certainly would reserve a scene like that, the tiny cameo kind of the Joker or whatever, for the actual movie. So if you're one of the people saying, oh, by the way, in the test screenings, nobody said anything about that, that means there is no Joker, that really doesn't mean shit. Like, to be very blunt and candid to you, that doesn't mean anything. And furthermore, just to kind of bolster the faith in the Joker argument here, I'm pretty sure people were saying that Stanley Merkel wasn't even seen in the film. Okay. So, if Barry Keoghan's playing Stanley Merkel and he is in the film, why wasn't he in the test screenings? Cover role. And what I mean by why wasn't he in the test screenings, as in his character, you know, someone like Barry Keoghan having a prominent role, if, for those of you who believe he is very much so Stanley Merkel, why wasn't he seen in numerous scenes from the reported test screenings that are somewhat, you know, getting leaked out a little bit with little tidbits of information that you may be real or may not, but you see where I'm going with this. So, you know, it does stand to show that he may very well be a larger character, and whether you believe that's the Mad Hatter and that's the secret scene, or whether it's the Joker, well, whatever, right? There's also other evidence, like, there's an interview where he was asked about, you know, the Batman, and he got very fidgety. He instantly interrupted the interviewer saying, I can't talk about that. Do you really think, if he was Stanley Merkel, he would, like, what, you know, what's to be so scared about talking about? Like, so, like, I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna leave it there. I just wanted to present to you what's already out there in the world. The only thing that's slightly irritating me a teeny bit from fans, and I completely understand it at the same time, I just think there's a big misconception going around. If the Joker isn't in the movie, Or sorry, should I rephrase that? If he is in the movie, people are like freaking out, like, not another Joker, blah, blah, blah. But as I kind of said in my last video, whether the Joker is in this movie or not, but assuming he is in that scene towards the end, which isn't in the test screenings for very obvious reasons, because they don't want something as big as that getting out, despite this big rumor situation going out in the world right now. That doesn't mean he's a prominent character taking thunder from the main plot and characters like the Riddler and Batman in the movie. Trust me, it's more like, supplementary. That's the way for me to put it. You take your vitamin D in the morning, but that's not your meal. That's such a weird analogy, but it's the same way of looking at the Joker. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't be set up, if that end scene is true, for the second movie to be a larger role. But for those who are freaking out about the Joker being a big character in this movie, and, you know, if that pertains to the rumors being true about Barry Keoghan, I'm telling you, he will not be a big role in this. It will be more like that post-credit scene, like in Venom 2, where it's just like, holy crap, they did that, oh my god. So with that context in mind, by the way, I do want to remind everyone who is, even if you're innocently saying the Joker thing still, despite what I just said with Joker fatigue related, you know, talks. Let's just assume the Barry Keoghan scene is true. It's only like, let's just say, I don't know, 20-second to a minute and a half scene that just, really nicely teases the second movie, or just the larger world building of how the Joker is already out there. The only Joker you would have got in terms of this Joker fatigue is like 20 seconds to a minute and a half, and then the next movie won't be out for like another couple of years or so. I'm not saying like multiple years on top of that. I'm just saying 2.5 years, 2 years. That's what I'm saying. So by that time, you'll probably be a lot more adjusted and ready to accept another Joker. Do you know what I mean? I think lots of people are thinking Joker talks, the Batman. Oh my God, we've just had a Joker. Oh my God, Joaquin. Oh my God, in this move. No. Just try and adjust the dials a little bit. Of course, I'm not telling you how to feel. It's just reading this all the time with this rumor at the minute, and people already trying to not necessarily act, I don't want to use the word hate on it, even though some people do word it, like that. Some people are coming from the genuine place of fatigue of that character, and I do get that, but I wish they had every part of context in mind with how, if these rumors are true, it's not as bad, as invasive, that's what I'm trying to say, in the movie as those people think. But anyway, guys, let's end that now, and I'll keep you updated on that situation, because at this point, those rumors are absolutely everywhere, so I couldn't make this video without discussing it. But I want to talk about question number 1 now, and that is from Zach Alexson, saying, I heard the movie is PG-13, but I also heard Batman is gritty and Riddler is a Jigsaw-type villain. I personally want some gore, like the Daredevil TV show, but then again, the Dark Knight trilogy didn't have much gore and still turned out to be one of the best trilogies ever. And in both trailers, we saw bats going ham on the criminals, so what's your take on this, Boba? Love your videos. Thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate the kind words. And by the way, just whilst I think of it, a lot of people are sending in questions through multiple different platforms. I will be getting to your questions eventually, even if they're not in this video. But as far as the PG-13 thing, I once upon a time thought they could maybe bleed the line of R-rated months and months back. I think I've even got titles with that in it. But yeah, most certainly it will be PG-13. And I understand people's apprehensions of limitations like that. But let me put it this way. Some of your favorite Batman scenes, like the BVS warehouse scene, that wasn't R-rated. There's a bunch of other things. So, and as you said in the trailer, it looks as though there's certain scenes where Batman's gonna go ham. Now, yeah, this is where things blur the line of, like, yeah, that means you can't have bunches and bunches and litters of blood everywhere. But there will be, the violence will most certainly be there. We're literally seeing Batman do what happened in with Ben Affleck as well, just going mad, like that, repeatedly. How much more violent could you get when you're smashing someone's skull again and again and again and again? And then again and again, and again and again and again and again. Like, I'm not even exaggerating when I just said that. Like, it's also in the first teaser at the first DC fandom. We hear bones crunch, like proximal humeruses getting broken, and I know what that feels like, because this one has been broken before. So there will be what you're seeking. If anyone's got any apprehension about that, do not worry. I practically want to guarantee you it will satiate any desires for that somewhat violent edge that you're seeking out of this Batman movie. Obviously not R-rated, but that doesn't mean it's going to be like freaking Frozen. Do you know what I'm saying? Up next from Brutal Vengeance 267, and you say, hey Boba, do you think Bruce will reveal who he is to Selina at the end of the film, or do you think Bruce will still keep it a secret to her? Keep up your great work, man. Thank you. So this, I think this is a question I might have discussed before, and it's one of those ones where, in my opinion, I just go back and forth on, because as I always say, it's not like I know these specific answers. I haven't seen the script, I haven't seen the movie itself. I may have heard a few things through the grapevine, but there are certain things I also don't want to hear for out of spoilers and stuff. And this is truly one of the ones that is a mystery to me. And this one, I think it could honestly just go either way. Now, personally, the way I'm feeling in this moment, I think, you know, it's more of a flip a coin thing. Maybe I would slightly lean towards, oh, I can see, actually, I think I might have more fun with if Batman's identity is kept secret and Selina doesn't find out, whereas Bruce, obviously seeing Selina Kyle without a mask on, as we see in the trailers, I'm pretty sure he's deduced who this woman is. So I think I would like it to bleed out into the second movie. I would have to say that it is very likely he could reveal it, but it's also just as likely that it might happen in a later movie, like the second one. It really does depend if they do certain romantic scenes in this movie, because I doubt Pattinson is going to keep the cowl on if he's going there, if you know what I mean. Who knows, but I doubt it. So, yeah, I would say I would probably lean towards no, but I would completely see myself being wrong there at the same time. So this next question, I really hope it doesn't, you know, I think my audience, you know, can understand opinions. This one's interesting because I've got an answer that hopefully doesn't surprise people, and everyone's standards and, you know, subjectivity is completely different. But K-Dog raises a very good point. It just is. So hey Boba, do you believe that in making Bruce's suit in the movie ultra bulletproof relieves tension in the fights, that he can't get stabbed or shot, which wouldn't be physically affecting him? I love the trailer, but that one part just really bugged me. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So yes, this one is super fascinating because I don't have an issue with that body armor here getting shot and having a load of bullets, like, you know, marks on it. Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Really, it is. The issue this presents in that really cool shot in the movie is, what are those goons doing? Why are you just shooting there? Shoot everywhere, because his legs, you know, with his tactical pants, if you will, aren't bulletproof. His cowl really doesn't look bulletproof. So I'm not trying, that's not even nitpicky, by the way. That really isn't. That's called plot armor. Now, I can let things like that slide for the rule of cool if there's not an abundance of it. So if that's like one of the few scenes in the movie where we only see that, I could be like, okay. But if there's pivotal moments in the movie where this stupid ass goon could shoot Batman in his thigh, disable him that way, rather than just here, or in their head, somebody go for a headshot, or just, for that matter, spray the rifle so you can have more of a likelihood of shooting him here or here, where there's not in the most protected area, then it really does just come across as plot armor and contrived. And I'm not that kind of guy to be like, oh, contrive this, contrive that. But it is an issue. Like, K-Dog raises a very important issue here. I'm sure subjectively I could be really, I am going to be really entertained by this movie, regardless of how many little criticisms that I have for it in my review that will come out. But we can't deny this scene. Now, it's going to be interesting to see the comments, because I've, you know, doing this for a few years now, there's people all over the park with stuff like this. You know, people just see that and think, you know, it's a comic book movie, I don't care, why you're overthinking it. That's not overthinking it. It's very valid criticism. It's just, it might not bother you. But you can see how, if it's in a very important part of the movie, and it's happened again and again, where Bruce arguably is surrounded by so many people and not one bullet touches him, in his ankle, his shin, his thigh, his neck, his head, that is just a bit too much. It would bug me as well. I do concur with what you're saying, but I do at the same time very subjectively say that I really think that scene is really cool. It is really cool. But my big issue, to repeat one last time, will be if there's moments like that again, and then again and again, or like if in Penguin's Iceberg Lounge, which I'm pretty sure is the Iceberg Lounge, or at least a very early designed version of it, since he's not Oz Cobblepot, there's not like lots of thematic kind of, you know, cartoony-esque parts of the Iceberg Lounge we're familiar with from the comics, as to probably what we will get in the second and third movie. And there's loads of people just shooting him. that will be an issue. But, you know, for example, moments like this that you're seeing on screen right now where someone shoots him there, I can believe that. Stupid thug just shoots impulsively. Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. But if there's this that you're seeing on screen right now, lots of times, that will just, that will downmark the grading in my critical opinion, because I would rather them write that scene in a way where Batman is more tactical. Like, he comes down and he throws a flashbang or a smoke bomb, because this is where things get interesting in discourse in the public comment section, because people are like, you do it any better, or like, how would you do it? Well, that's how I would do it. That's a way to do it. Sure, have one or two rule of cool moments, I'm fine with that, but in the other areas where I would start saying, okay, this is an issue, have a moment where, as I just said, throw a flashbang, everyone's like, what's going on? And then he takes him out. That is a perfect way to write that scene without any plot armor. Truly, it's Bruce using theatricality and things like that, rather than just walking towards them. So yeah, badassery, rule of cool and stuff, it's a debate for sure to be had. But yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on that. I'm only being fair though. I'm deadly excited for this movie, but you know, I'm not gonna lie when it comes to scene breakdowns like that. So this next one is a very common one that I get, and it's very fascinating. So I guess Tony says, if more successful than we think, do you think they would try and blend this Batman into the large DCEU? The thing I find fascinating about the way you phrase that is, and this isn't me flaming what you're saying or anything, it's just like, so if you think it's successful, do you think that just because it's successful, that means it then would qualify to be in the DCEU? In my opinion, it's just like, no, keep it away from the DCEU. Don't get me wrong, I like parts of the DCEU, but like, even if this was insanely successful, I would say no. No. Reeves wants it separate. He wants his own world. Yes, I know people will bring up Flashpoint for Andy Muschietti's film. Really irrelevant to me, because I'm still pretty confident that that won't blend worlds together there. This truly is to be looked at as a standalone universe. Even though it will be expanded out with other shows such as Gotham PD, the HBO Max show. There's now talks of a Penguin show. That's very, very early development. Nothing's been dotted and signed. It's just being discussed, but that is a legitimate discussion. So there is a universe being branched off this, but there is no interest, as far as I'm aware, to connect it to the larger DCEU. But I just find it interesting that you said if it's more successful than we think, then maybe it would be, like, do I think it could be blended into the larger DCU? Well, in my mind, whether it's successful or not, that doesn't really bring up any discussion as to why that makes it, you know, able to then go into the DCU universe. Do you know what I mean? And by the way, if I'm talking very fast, I've had a coffee right before this, and I'm very wired right now. So I trust you're getting what I'm saying. Like, the DCEU, I know that technically is viewed as the main canon of the DC universe that Warner Brothers has put out there, even though we've had other movies that are Elseworlds movies like Joker, and now technically this is Elseworlds-esque. It's not really Elseworlds, because Elseworlds is something like Joker. This is just like another Earth. Elseworlds would be like if Batman went round with, I don't know, like a pink suit. That would be kind of Elseworlds, if you know what I mean. This is still very Batman and true to Batman, just on another Earth. But no, yeah, I trust I've answered this one. So next question's from Dude. Hey, dude. Do you think Riddler has a scar or tattoo on his face? Maybe like a question mark. Just a thought. Love your videos, man. Been watching since Gotham, dude. Thank you, dude. Seriously, for watching me since the early days of Gotham. Gotham Season 3, for a lot of you who don't know, is when I started popping off on this channel, and actually when I started this channel. So the fact you've been here this long means a lot to me, seriously. And as for this, I would say no. It's very possible, but just through my instincts for this movie, I would say no. I feel like, I don't know if it would alienate people. Obviously, this is subjective, but Joker had tattoos and stuff like that. And I'm not saying, you know, what you just said would be an abundance of tattoos on Riddler's face, but I just think people would find it distasteful if Paul Dano's Riddler has as a question mark edged into him. It's almost like, I feel like that would, I think Reeves has the insight to know that people would find that edgelordy. I'm not saying I find that, but I already know that the perception out there would be like that. I think Paul Dano will come across as, you know, like a lot of serial killers, like even the Zodiac Killer, the sketchings and stuff, or other serial killers, they have a very ordinary look. what is perceived to be ordinary. And I feel like we get that across, even though we've not seen Paul Dano's face in the actual trailer or anywhere just yet from the movie. We do get glimpses, and he really does appear to be like normal haircut guy, little kind of transparent glasses, and I would be gobsmacked from the little side glimpses of his face that we got when he was getting arrested if he had like a question mark there. I really doubt that. I really, really doubt it. I think his way of spreading his message won't be as, you know, as inherent as that. It will be done through everything else he does, and the little insignias that he's got on the posters, and maybe other followers believing his desire for changing Gotham, because even if it's coming from a place of wanting to change Gotham, but that doesn't matter. We know what Gotham citizens are like. Not everyone is a bad egg, but most certainly it will inspire those to, even though people are getting blown up, mayors getting murdered, you will have people dress up and support that, because just like the Riddler, whose life has been one big cruel riddle, as he said himself through the things we've learned, there's lots of other people out there who've had a cruel life in Gotham who will just support even extreme measures being done to enact change. Jaden asks something that is pretty interesting. So we love your videos, Boba. Thank you, Jaden. I don't know if you remember, but back in the early days of this film being in production, Firefly was said to be in a movie. However, we haven't heard anything of that since. Do you still think he's in it? So it's not necessarily a fact if I ever thought like, okay, Firefly is in this movie. I've always, whenever there's stuff like this, it's like a bit of to and fro. Ooh, okay, so this could be happening. So when it comes to this, obviously I don't know the answer, but as I always say, my instincts are telling me, if that rumor was founded on anything legit, I don't think Firefly would be a prominent villain. It's kind of that attitude of world building. So he might not even be directly referenced, but you may have a situation where if there is a fire or a building on fire, because I believe some of the early London filming, I could be completely wrong about this by the way, there might have been some Gotham firefighters there, and you can imagine a news report where certain person with Firefly's name has been arrested, thus leading up to him being escaping from jail and carrying on his arsonist kind of ways. So you get what I mean there? So I never would expect a flying Firefly going here and burning buildings everywhere, but I feel like just world building style, if Reeves has done this, or should I put first, these rumors are true, Reeves would have just somewhat annotated this movie with cool little things like that for fans to be like, okay, all of this glorious, rich content is coming out of this world, but then there's little darts of other Batman villains, very subtly seeded. But yeah, as for like if he's actually in it, it's possible, but not in the way that anyone should have massive expectations for. If he's in it, it will be a news report. I'm pretty sure it'll be that much, or you'd be pretty lucky to get someone like Firefly booked in the police department for the first time. But it could be a cool world-building thing, but I'm actually neither here nor there with that. I could be completely happy if he wasn't. Now, I love this next question from Fat Batman. Hi, Boba. Love the videos, man. And I'm sure you'll have a ton more to talk about now with the main trailer dropping. Yeah, definitely. My question is, the scene where we see Batman gliding off the building, he uses a wingsuit. Now, normally, a parachute is needed when using a wingsuit, but obviously, in the movie, he'll be too low of an altitude to open one. So how do you think he'll land after he jumps? Keep up the videos, man. So yeah, this is a very, very interesting question, especially with the latter of what you pointed out. Is a parachute completely out the realms of possibility? I'm not talking like a massive one, but you know, there's like smaller ones that are more rectangular in shape, where it could I mean, it would launch him back, I suppose, but then there's a risk of buildings. Now, that's where you get a bit logical, and will there be logical skips in this movie, and how many? I really hope not, but we're gonna have to wait and see there. Also, just on this note, I've seen comments, and this is just to address anyone who's thinking this, but I don't like the wingsuit because that's what his cape's for. Just because you've seen The Dark Knight where he has technology where the cape just goes really like staticky stiff, doesn't mean that's gotta be what Reeves goes for in the realistic grounded sense. What Reeves has gone for is very realistic. Bruce flies, the Batman is flying across Gotham skies, absolutely brilliant. What's the realistic way to do that? Wingsuit. Although I'm absolutely dying to see where he got that out from, or what he did to kind of zip himself up, because it does look to be zipped up. And the cape, you know, it doesn't look like that kind of folds round into like a zip, because otherwise on the edge of the cape like this, you'd have little zip parts, like your coat, for example. That's neither here nor there. Just to get rid of that tangent, you have got a very good point. We see him glide throughout the buildings. I love that. It just adds to this legend of the Batman in a very realistic sense. And the speed you can get when you're doing like wingsuit, like for example, type in like Red Bull sponsored wingsuit videos on YouTube. Some of the shit you will see them pull is insane. Like if they miss by a millimeter going through a rock, they go splat. So the fact that Bruce is proficient with this gives you some idea of his background and training. I love that. Literally got chills on my spine there, just because I really hope we get into some of that stuff. But even if we don't too much, the fact that he knows how to do this just gives you that little nugget of training. I think you can kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong here, deploy a parachute at like around 300 foot or so, and considering how high Bruce is in Gotham, he might be able to get away with it. But my answer to this, and I'm probably wrong there by the way, it would be very, very risky to do that. My best excuse here, guess what? Probably the solution to this is A, logical skip, contrived for plot kind of thing. I'm just saying it because at the end of the day, most movies do have them. It's not a great thing, but it, you know, it is what it is. But what I hope is that Bruce is, you know, gliding like that at some point when he's flying in a comic book movie-esque kind of way with a comic book logic. Whether this annoys people or not, the most creative way to do it, to be Batman still, is to deploy his grapple hook whilst he's flying. Now, that is still kind of a struggle to believe, because if you're wingsuiting and going as fast as he is past that building, man, to get your grapple hook out and do that, that's another thing. But I trust that they've handled it in a tasteful way, or at least that's what I'm being optimistic about. But given what you said about the parachute thing, and, you know, we're not going to spend another 30 minutes talking about the logic of this, I would try and probably opt for the grapple hook route rather than him deploying a parachute. But we're going to have to just wait and see. But this is one I would really want to know from all the high intellectuals out there as to how this could happen. Grapple hook or parachute? Let me know. Next up from Clayface himself saying, "Hey Bobo, would you rather the sequels follow this dark, realistic detective tone that the Batman is most likely going to have, and it definitely is, or would you rather for them to be unique and for them to explore mystical lighter tones?" So, interesting question. I think they will still, naturally in this world, whether which will happen, Bruce's evolution changes, you know, into a, because he's not going to be as rage-filled, and one of the lessons of this movie will kind of be about not being as impulsive as he is. So he's definitely heading in a bit more of a direction of growth that way, but we can't forget he's still Batman. So the next movies, there's still going to be moments where he's, I don't know, in a very intense situation where he's still very Batman and angry. So that will still maintain, I'm sure, dark tones. But if we're going to touch on light, throughout the progression of the second and third movie, and I'm not saying this will happen in such a dramatic way, because as what Ben Affleck, and this is the example I want to use, for example, that moment in Zack Snyder's Justice League, completely contrasting the Batman we had in BVS, saying, "Faith, Alfred, faith." You know that moment where he's just getting ready to take off? So I'm not saying he's going to get there, like, because that would be way too soon, I think, for this early Batman. But I can imagine him, like, walking the path of that compared to the Bruce we see in this movie. So I don't know if that would paint, like, the whole movie in a massive stroke of light tone, but that's what I would say, in my mind, I would address when answering a question like this. As for that, you know, I think the second and third movie will definitely follow the dark tone still, because at the end of the day, this is early in Bruce's career, and he hasn't really truly, even, you know, with what we were talking about, if Barry Keoghan is the Joker, like, and that gets teased and he's in the second movie, think of all the horrifying things this man has got to come. You know, even though Barbara Gordon isn't Batgirl, let's just say we completely changed the time setting of this movie and everything like that. Let's just say she would get shot. Like, Bruce has got all this stuff and potential horrible stuff. Or, like, let's say Joker blows up a building. Like, and, you know, Batman has to let him live. Like, imagine the kind of mental toll, because as Batman does, he very traditionally lets the Joker live still, despite all the lives he keeps taking. And that's just an obvious example. So I can't see how, with what Reeves is kind of painted this canvas with a little bit of a tease for us of, despite growth in this first movie, by the end, there's no way that Bruce... Unfortunately, Brucey boy is still in for a very rough time ahead, and I don't see how you can paint that in a lighter tone for the second and third movie. I think there'll be hints of what I said, many little detailings of little light strokes with growth, but other than that, Oh boy, it could get even darker. The thing I'm most interested in coming out of your question, and we've kind of discussed this before, is how detective-y are the second and third movie going to be? That's not to say they won't be. I 100% believe they will be, because that's just Reeves' Batman, that they're capitalizing upon the world's greatest detective kind of guy that we really haven't seen truly brought out in other movies before, other than little fleeting moments. Other than that, it's never ever been capitalized. That's the word to use. It's never been capitalized upon. So will the second movie, with what I'm trying to get to, include a villain that's like the first movie, where it's just kind of like, who is this man? Why is he doing this? I would love that still, but the issue is with that, you will get criticism of, okay, I get what you're doing, Reeves, this is cool, but like, this is too similar and akin to the Riddler plot. So what does that mean for the second and third movie? What will that change? Will we still get very heavy detective elements, but a villain that is not necessarily a mystery, who is this person, but actually more hands-on? So the best way to do that is Mr. Freeze. Now, sure, a little quarter of the movie could be about who is this man, why is he doing this, but I think they would cotton on to the identity a lot sooner. It wouldn't be literal riddles. That's the thing to look at. So they'll still maintain the detective aspect, let's say second movie is Mr. Freeze, through a part of trying to find out who he is, but then it will be like, okay, instead of spending the whole movie trying to figure out riddles or whatever Mr. Freeze is doing, it will be about apprehending this guy, high-stakes situations, what is Freeze's precipice of the movie moment gonna be, what, you know, stuff like that. Or even trying to figure out his, okay, like we're encountering him frequently, but why is he trying to do all these things? And then he figures out it's because he's trying to save his wife. Like, little bits like that will be the things that are maintained, yet are somewhat transformative and differentiating each film from the last one. So this one's from Jackson Crane. Love the videos, Boba. Keep it up. Thank you, Jackson. I'm sure you've been asked this a few times. I don't think I have, actually. But at what point do you think in a movie Riddler is caught? Actually, maybe I have. I don't know. Could it be early in the film and Riddler has his goons complete his tasks for him? Or do you think it could be towards the middle/end of the film and the trailer could be deceiving us? Mixed bag here. I think, you know, I labeled my video last week 7 inspirations or something like that, just because, and somebody in the comment section, I don't know if you're reading this right now, you could be very well right. I don't think Matt Reeves has ever actually explicitly said 7, I've been inspired by 7. However, there are very clear themes and stuff that you can draw out of 7 that are burrowed in this movie, and only the most artistical way that complements Gotham, you know, because a lot of people like to view 7, since they never actually labeled a city, I'm pretty sure, as Gotham. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but it is pretty cool to label it like that, and Kevin Spacey's serial killer as like a Gotham serial killer. I don't know if any of you have ever had that approach, but now watch 7 with that in mind. And they're just 2 GCPD cops, you know, Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. But going back to what you said, so the reason why I brought up 7 is because I feel like it could be, but then, like what Kevin, you know, how he comes towards the end of the movie, completely reveals himself. And as, you know, that's why Bruce punches the screen. It's like, what have you done? Because he knows, as I've said a few times before, this guy isn't got himself deliberately caught painting a goddamn question mark in his cappuccino for no bloody reason. He's in there and is provocative, if anything. And he's probably in there as well because it's the easiest way to talk to the Batman, which is why he's like, I've been trying to reach you. So yeah, he probably wants to talk to Batman face to face there. And this is why I say 7-esque, because that's exactly what Kevin Spacey's, I'm sorry for spoilers, by the way, but that's exactly what Kevin Spacey's serial killer did. He could have stayed in the wind, but he didn't. He wanted to be in custody for his final villainous act. And I do feel like that is what's going on with the Riddler. Now, that doesn't dictate, or that's not me really saying that is the final villainous act. This could be earlier on in the movie, and he escapes, and then we've still got quite a few acts of his grand plan to go. I'm just saying it could fall in line and mirror a little bit of what 7 did there. What I will say is, just judging from the trailer, there's definitely no way that's at the beginning of the movie, you know, considering we have the mayor's death, Gil Coulson's. I'm pretty sure there's a few deaths that will be happening when Riddler is in the wing. So that takes me up until the midway point in the movie where I would gamble that he's not been apprehended. So I would say it happens 3/4 in, around about that point. Like, so let's just say the movie is 2 hours, 36 minutes. I would say maybe at the 1 hour 50 mark, around then or so, like, this could be happening, considering, like, you haven't got much of the movie left, but you've got enough to where like there's a lot left and the resolution and the big third act thing still needs to happen, that could be it. It could be earlier, but that's why I gamble. But other than that, just giving off everything I just kind of said, it's still a bit of a mixed bag. But definitely not at the first part of the movie. No way. I mean, I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong and clip this, but yeah. Other than that, what I just said. Now, speaking of Seven, Alexander Tomasino says, do you think that the movie will end without being a complete ending, or rather a happy ending? After watching movies like Seven and Zodiac, I wouldn't be surprised if it, yeah, perfect example of Zodiac as well. I wouldn't be surprised if it ended like them, or even Under the Red Hood, where the story is complete and the main conflict is resolved, but it's, you know, not a very bright ending. Would love to know what you think. Yes, I think you've got the nail on the head there. Especially with just where we're at in Bruce's life, being Batman and what he's chosen to dedicate his life to, I don't view any story as a happy ending, whether it's another Rogues Gallery member like the Ventriloquist, Harvey Dent, Clayface. There will always be tragedy. Let's just say there's 7 movies, and each villain I just mentioned, plus more, is the arc for each movie. There will be tragedies and hardships that happen where it will put you in a frame of mind where it's just like, damn, like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows at the end. People will die. Bruce will be pushed to limits that stress him the crap out. In this movie, he will be doing things that disgust him of what he did. Like, that's a part of the learning curve, of course, with what Matt Reeves is going for Bruce's character. But specifically with the Zodiac, you know, it's like the Zodiac killer never gets caught. So as you can imagine, a film about Zodiac, you see these characters pursuing him, and it's kind of like, it's not a deflating feeling necessarily. Maybe it is. It's just like the movie ends, and it's like, okay, the movie's over, the plot and all the murdering's kind of over for now, but it's like, oh. You know, and same with Seven. Jesus, that's a lot more hard with what happens. And the conflict is somewhat resolved there, but Jesus, the repercussions? What's in the box? Man. So with this, very similar thing with the Riddler. I believe he will be caught. I believe what will happen with Bruce will make him feel disgusted in his own actions. There'll be little bleeding effects from that. As we've referenced before, and this isn't even pertaining to the rumored Joker scene. People keep saying there's still this twisty bit towards the 3/4 mark of the film where everyone's like, you won't see that coming out of the test screenings or something. Now, that could scream to me where, as I was just going along with the kind of deflated feelings, it's like, you know, even if you lock the Riddler up, there's revelations that happen or things that happen that make the audience feel like, damn, like still a bit deflated on behalf of the character or characters. So that could mean like Bruce does learn, and this probably wouldn't be a massive reveal, but probably for the general audience, like the Waynes are corrupt, or like there's this whole thing in a movie where somebody did something that we've known all the way throughout the movie that's so bad, and we don't think that's the Waynes, but then you find out it is, and Bruce like is in meltdown mode. And that's a big twist, and it's like this deflating moment. But yet again, I think those are poor examples I'm giving right now off the top of my head compared to what you brought up with the deflated kind of feeling you come out of with the Zodiac movie and the Seven movie. But just kind of, you know, catch my drift there. With the Batman, there's going to be something that the Riddler does, and what Bruce learns, or somebody who dies, I'm guessing. But yet again, it's not like, you know, Alfred's gonna die, so I don't think anyone directly related to Bruce, or like, even if that's the case, I don't know if the audience will have enough time to connect with said character to feel like such a big, like, Seven or Zodiac-esque deflated feeling at the end of the movie. So my final word on this would be that something so grand happens that even though the conflict is resolved, just like Seven or Zodiac, that the Riddler leaves his mark on the world. And sure, you could argue he just does that in of itself with killing the mayor, killing District Attorney Gil Colson, killing whoever. But no, it's going to be even above that, way above that. And I don't know what that is. Frickin' fly. What I will leave you off with is it will mirror that ending, as you said. I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of ended like that. And then, you know, even more so, if Batman does go to visit the Joker at the end of the movie, it's like, why? Why does he do that? Whether if Barry Keoghan is the Joker, it's like, okay, cool. But why? Why? Like, what causes him to, like, let's say Riddler threat is over. Okay, well, I'm gonna go see the Joker in Arkham now. Why? I want to know what that is. And does it pertain to what happens? Like, I've seen some theories already, obviously, with what we're discussing earlier, what we have been discussing with the Barry Keoghan rumors, some people think, okay, maybe Stanley Merkel is a role, even though it kind of aka is cover role for the character he would become. Let's just say Stanley is in the movie, but he falls, let's say one of the Riddler's freaking riddles is in Ace Chemicals, and that scene of where Selina is looking over the railings with the kind of green hue in the background is where you get Stanley falling into the chemical vat. Yes, I know, way too cliche Joker origin story, and also it would kind of undo, oh, we know who fell into the chemical vat, that was Stanley, so Joker technically isn't John Doe. Do you know what I mean? So that's not a solid theory, but that could be like a really sad thing if you like Barry Keoghan's Stanley Merkel character. He's this only good cop in the GCPD out of all the cops, and he's a little kind of 29-year-old youthful law enforcement person, and he is the one, and let's just say Bruce feels responsible as well. That would hammer it in even more. So in a Seven-like way, maybe he could have avoided it, but because of his impulsive actions, he doesn't directly kill Stanley, obviously, because that was Riddler's riddle that maybe puts him in a chemical vat. But my God, it's kind of like a situation where you just ground your child. They're like 8 years old, and you say, "Stay here till I get back." And it's gonna be interesting to know if anybody knows what I'm referencing here. And you leave, and you say they can't go to their certain football game or basketball game. You drive away, and you have a terrible rage at them. Not that parents should necessarily do that, whatever, I'm not a parent. But you feel guilty because of that in a way. And then when you come back, or you get a phone call and it's from the police, they went out on their bike, tried to go to the game, and got hit by a car. That's not your fault inherently, but if you never left, or whatever kind of thing, they might arguably not have died. Take whatever out of that example you will, but I feel like if that theory from whoever mentioned that online is true of Stanley or whatever, or you know what, just completely throw the Joker and Barry thing out of this, whatever character, that would still eat Bruce up a bit. It really would. Even though he didn't directly do it, he might have to choose between Gotham and an individual. Now, in that situation, what would you do? You would choose the people of Gotham. You want more lives than just one, right? Even though you would try and strive to do both. You get my point by now. And that would be a really kind of like, oh shit, I understand what Batman did, but there's no way this guilt isn't going to eat him up and keep him up at night, even though he's up at night anyway. But ladies and gentlemen, I am going to end this video there. I would have loved to have got through more questions, but there's always next week. So let me know if you're enjoying these videos, which I know a lot of you are, but just leave a comment down in the comments below with everything you thought about it. I read every comment. You know how passionate I am about this, so I love seeing other people's perspectives. Even if I'm completely wrong about it, you guys sometimes change my perspectives and whatnot. Like this video if you did enjoy it. Subscribe for more content just like this, not just discussion videos, but update videos, theory videos, kind of video essay types. You know, I want to get a few more of that out there with regards to just really getting into some interesting topics about the film. But everybody, if you want to stay up to date with me, you can do so on Twitter, in my Discord server. It's just /BobaTalks on Twitter. Same with a Facebook page if you want to go there. Links, as always, are in that top pinned comment. So when you're in the comment section, expand my comment and you will see all of the links. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.